right, thanks for that intro, Jonathan. Can you guys all hear me okay? Thank you for coming to the App Show. I gotta say, it's a pleasure to be back. We haven't done one of these in 4 years and see all your beautiful faces. Who's been to an App Show before? Oh, a bunch of you. Wow, didn't expect there was that many. I see Sam Levin out in the crowd. There he is. Sam was at the very first App Show, which was at the flagship Apple store, which is now under construction on Stockton and Market. That was back in November 2009. So we've been doing this for 9 years, although we just took a big break. The band didn't break up. We were just working in the studio, and we're ready to start touring again. So thank you for being back. All right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to see. Can I have my slides, please, Jimmy?
Slide.
All right, so one of the things we always like to do here, even before there was Facebook Live, we were live streaming these events, and we're live streaming right now. And if you guys could all please do me a favor, we want to amplify what's going on in this room and get as many people watching out online as possible. So if you could please take that link up there, appshow.com/live, and go on whatever social media networks you're on, and promote it. We'd really appreciate that. While you're doing that, I'm going to say hello to the live stream audience. Hi out there on the web, anybody who's watching. We're here in a beautiful location in San Francisco overlooking the Bay Bridge. Is there any chance we can shoot that or not? I didn't ask earlier. You want to turn the camera? No. Okay. Anyway, we'll take my word for it. There are 10,000 people in this room right now, and we are looking at a gorgeous view of an illuminated Bay Bridge out there. All right. All right. Hello, hello on the live stream again. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So one of the things we like to do here is to really engage the audience, and most of the presenters' apps are available for download. Some of them are still tweaking them, and they're not quite available in the app stores yet. But we have our own app or our own mobile website, which is m.appshow.com. So if you're going to download any of the presenters' apps tonight, really appreciate it if you would download them from that mobile website, because then we can track it. And at the end of the night, we're going to show the audience choice, which is the apps that you guys downloaded the most. We don't have a Twitter instance saved yet, but we do have stats on what you guys like based on using that website. Next slide, please, Jimmy. I've got to say a huge thank you again to DocuSign for welcoming us, having us here in this beautiful spot. Can I get a round of applause, please, for DocuSign? Louder, come on. All right. Thanks a lot. All right, now next slide. Also want to thank our promotional partners, the VR/AR Association, as well as Artillery. VR/AR Association, I think that's self-explanatory. Artillery has some of the best and only data on the fledgling AR industry, and we're going to look at some of that just here in a bit. Next slide, please. I want to thank some people by name. Sorry for all the thanks, but this event would not be possible without all these people. First of all, Robin Joy, who's SVP of Digital and Web here at DocuSign. I'll tell you a little story. I called her up back in November and said, look, we want to do an AR app show. I hear you have this fantastic venue, and I also have an idea for you about DocuSign and AR. And I said, imagine a construction use case where a welding foreman wants to go sign in space that he actually certified a weld and have that signature be there for the future, or an electrical foreman could do that as well. And then people could go back and verify the signature. I said, do you think anybody's even thinking remotely along those lines of DocuSign? She said, probably not, but you can host an app show. So thank you, Ryan. I want to thank Jonathan Price, who runs this facility here and has made sure that everything works. So thank you, Jonathan. Caroline Husky, who greeted you all at the door. Thank you very much for your support. Jimmy Giliberti, who's back there. Jimmy, take a bow. Jimmy's been the technical director for 9 years. This is quite a production. We always push the limits of what's doable and possible, and most of the time it comes off, and that's only because Jimmy is very dedicated and makes sure it all works. This is starting to test my, Mike Boland. Mike, are you here? Mike Boland. Mike Boland's with Artillery. He actually does double duty. His day job is with Artillery, which I mentioned earlier, the AR statistics and analysis, industry data. He's also co-chair of the San Francisco chapter of the VR/AR Association. So thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I want to thank his co-chair, Emily, also from the VR/AR Association. She's not here tonight. And then I've got to thank a huge list of people who helped out in this event. Danielle Daly, who built these fantastic slides for me. Danielle, are you around? Danielle's with Slide Town. If you guys want to have some slides embellished and up your slide game, I think Danielle's actually giving away a promotion here tonight. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to thank Paul Gasset. Where's Paul? Right here. I want to thank Turner Kirk. Turner's an AppShow alum, presented at one of our very first app shows, and for years I didn't actually know his real name, but I finally do now. Maybe you can talk to him afterwards about his alter ego. It's interesting. Justin Montgomery, we just relaunched an AppShow website. Check it out. Justin Montgomery built that for us. I got to thank him. Howard Steinberg, who had to leave. Oh no, he's still here. Howard Steinberg, thank you for your help. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not thank that beautiful blonde woman who greeted you all when you came in. That's my wife, Helena Zaladova. And if you think she did a good job welcoming you here, you should buy some real estate from here or sell some real estate in San Francisco. She's one of the leading realtors in the Paragon. All right, move on, please. I got to thank all the presenters as well. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about AR in general and where we're coming from. So back in January of 2010, we had an app at the App Show. That App Show was at 111 Minute. Actually, Turner Kirk presented at that App Show, an app called Smule IMT Pain. We also had Evernote's launch at that event. But anyway, it was the first time I ever saw augmented reality. A small company out of Munich that had opened a San Francisco office called Mataio. Showed off an SDK and an app that they made called Genio. And we had them back in 2012. And I thought I would level set about what is mobile AR and what was mobile AR 6 years ago by rolling this video. Can we roll that video, please, Jimmy?
Augmented reality application allows you to very easily attach digital information to physical objects.
Partner is Lego. You guys are
Yes, we actually work with Lego on a number of projects. So as you can see here, this is just get a round of applause for that. Is that all right? Thank you.
Go Lego.
You can applaud too. It's still cool.
So just to go real quick. So that's what we call simple 2D image and surface tracking. As you can see, I'm rotating the box, and the model is staying there. Very cool stuff. So what we're now going to do is we're going to use, once again, this scan, the inherent functionality of the application that allows you to launch internal experiences with a simple QR code.
He's holding a QR code.
So you just scan the QR code, it loads a different experience. We're going to use the same image, because you can use an image as many times as you want for different experiences. So this is part of the new update. We've added HTML5 and JavaScript functionality. So,
Brand new, right?
yeah.
State of the art at that time.
Well, actually, isn't in the App Store yet. It will be in 2 to 3 weeks. So you can see, I'm taking this Lego guy on a walk, and he's just walking around the box. And once again, this is totally attached to this. And you look at it, even if the tracking breaks, the program remembers where he was. It's so this is all completely new, and developers, users, basically anyone will be able to create experiences just like this. Once again, just for all of you watching at home, this guy does not exist in real life.
There's not really a little guy walking.
He's just there. That would be awesome too, though.
The question I have when I looked at this, and maybe I'm not sorry, yeah, but why? It's cool.
Why?
But why?
Because we don't have a way to.
Okay.
All right, so that was Mataio back in 2012. Can you go back to the slides, please, Jimmy?
Yep.
And then, of course, what happened in, was it May? One more, please. I think it was May 2015, is that Apple bought Mataio. And I don't think the amount was disclosed. Anybody here know how much Apple paid for Mataio, roughly? Anyone?
200.
Nobody knows. Anyway, but a lot of what you're going to see here today was created with ARKit, which is Apple's AR development platform. And a lot of ARKit was actually based off of the Metaio technology. Now go to the next slide, please. So where are we today? What you see here, this is the IKEA Spaces app, which some of you are probably familiar with. And this is a way to place virtual furniture in an actual space and make decisions about whether you might want to buy a piece of furniture. And a lot of what you're going to see today are other mobile apps built with ARKit and Google's platform, which is called AR Core. But they're for mobile augmented reality. That's augmented reality on smartphones, like we saw in the Metaio demo video, as well as tablets. But the next slide is where are we going? Where are we going? We're going to augmented reality in glasses. And I really like this slide. I don't know how well you can see it, but you're seeing kind of an airport use case where you have glasses on the left-hand side. You're seeing information about your flight. On the right-hand side, you're getting more information and different things. But AR in glasses, I think a lot of people in this room, and I'm certainly convinced, is going to be the next computing platform. And I'll just tell one more quick little story, which is that it's January. How many of you guys have had New Year's resolutions? How many of you have stuck to your New Year's resolutions? Oh, most of you. All right. January's not over yet. We've still got time to slip. I tell you, I had a New Year's resolution last year, 2017, which was, I'm going to go to the optometrist. I'm getting to the point, particularly I'm noticing when I'm writing text, I'm making tons of typos. I'm like, is that my eyes not as good as they used to be? And I kept my New Year's resolution. And I don't know why I'm going to plug these guys, but I just love their name. I went to an optometrist in West Portal called A Sight for Sore Eyes. I just think that's a beautiful name. And I had a great experience there. And they checked out my eyes, and they did not want to sell me anything. They said, your eyes are fine if you start wearing reading glasses. The sooner you start wearing reading glasses, the sooner you're going to become dependent on them. So hold off as long as you can. So my personal goal is to be able to hold off long enough that my first pair of glasses will be augmented reality glasses. Let's see if I can make that. Next slide, please. This is some of the artillery data that I mentioned earlier. Again, and this is actually, I think, based on some Intel data. And what you're seeing there, the red line is forecasting enterprise adoption of AR, and the yellow line is forecasting the consumer adoption of AR. And you see that where we are right now, it's pretty flat, but we're starting to see enterprise scale. And that inflection point where the yellow line crosses the red line and takes that steep upward curve that VCs love so much, is in 6 years from now. Sorry, 8 years from now. And I think it's really interesting to think about 8 years from now. There's a ton of stuff that can happen. But again, that Metaio video, or the first time we saw Metaio, that was 8 years ago in 2010, almost exactly 8 years ago, January 2010. So 8 years from now, we could have a huge consumer AR business, and I'm sure Mike from Artillery would be happy to talk to you about that more. Next slide, please. This slide is, sorry, next one. Sorry. This slide is forecasting the growth. That's actually mixing both VR and AR. We're here mostly to talk about AR tonight. We see that overall VR plus AR, Artillery is forecasting to grow from a $4 billion industry in 2016 to a $79 billion industry in 2021. And interestingly, back in 2016, there was a little bit of an anomaly, which was that consumer AR was actually bigger than enterprise AR, which I wouldn't expect. I actually called Mike up earlier to ask him why that was the case. Anybody here have a theory about why in 2016 consumer AR might have been bigger than enterprise AR in terms of revenues? Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, exactly right. But the forecast did not see that holding, and instead we're going to see enterprise really surpass consumer. Next slide, please. This is an interesting slide, and I know we have some people from Google out in the audience, but this is, we've seen this movie before, where Apple and Google have competing platforms, and they have very different approaches. And from my perspective, and I'm speaking only from my perspective, We saw Google out to an early lead in AR with Project Tango. And then when Apple launched ARKit late last year, they took over the lead in terms of handsets that are actually enabled for AR. But this slide is predicting that this year we're going to see that flip again, and Google is going to take over the lead. It's going to be, as always, a very interesting battle to observe. And maybe you can ask, we're not going to get into too much today about the difference between ARKit and AR Core, but that's an interesting topic to talk to some of the developers about in the networking after the show. Next slide, please. All right, well, I'm getting ready here to bring up my first guest. We're going to try to run through all of this in a little under an hour. We're going to have 8 apps coming up here, 8 app developers presenting what they're doing in AR. And they will each get exactly 7 minutes. It's going to be a one-on-one interview format. And if we have time, we'll love to take some questions from the audience. So think about your questions. Please wait for a microphone. Paul will be running the mic. And I think, and then as I mentioned, the very last thing that we'll do before we break for more drinks and food and dessert is we'll look at that audience choice, or what we once termed the download-o-meter results.